Welcome to the Blue Collar Barbarian Show. Formerly the Blue Collar Barbarian Show, now the Barbarian Show. And we're back with another barbarian and a barbarian of all sorts. This guy is a jack of all trades. He's a good friend of our Tyler, our co-owner of the Barbarian Show, and my new friend, John McCollum. John, thank you so much for your time today, man, and for being able to scrape away. I know you've been watching raffle tags and scouting critters for those hunts and different things that you got going on coming up this fall. So I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, I got to tell you, I've been looking forward to getting to sit down with you for a while. We've been trying to make this happen since we actually started thinking about this show, but you were busy with your little high priority clients and getting ready for hunts with Don Jr. and his son, and chasing sheep. I mean, there's not much you don't do, is there?
Uh, you know, it started out, after high school and stuff like that, graduating college, chasing a professional baseball career, for a couple years in college, trying to better my draft stock and stuff like that. And then the next thing life starts, kids, and timber falling, logging. That's really our biggest economy around here, and so I cut trees for like 30 years, and then just one day I just said, I want to do something different, and leaning back in my chair, I'm like going, there's only one person to look at for failure, and that would be yourself being in business. Just take a look in the mirror,
Yeah.
And I had some money in the bank and some cash in my pocket, and I went down and had a box of business cards printed up and got a handful of brochures. The Wild Sheep Foundation, I got to attribute them to my start. They bought my very first elk hunt, and by doing that, I became a life member of the Wild Sheep Foundation, and I did that's where I did my very first convention. And basically, that's where it started, man. It was just me, and today's world, now, I mean, we've got over 50 people working for us, between 45 and 55 people, that assist us across the state of Oregon.
That's incredible, man. And I want to dive into a little bit of your background, if you don't mind, here in just a second. But what I want to tell you is just how encouraging it is to hear even that, right? From a young guy's perspective, like kind of like we were just talking before the show, like I think it's really important for people to understand that sometimes you need to go all in on you. That yes, it's great to have the security of a job and a check and a retirement and the traditional way of doing things, but then we're also losing the creators, the creative touch that we used to see in this country, where the people would think of an idea and then bring it from thought to paper into manifesting it into an actual material item or company, and so I got to say, I really am excited to hear more of your story, because I personally, I live for this shit where you hear these stories about these people that went out there and just put their head down and made it happen. Because as I'm sure you'll tell me, but I'm sure there was no roadmap for how you do this when you started this, right? Like you just had to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So let's back up to when you were logging. Let's talk through that time frame.
I was a young teenager, 12, 13 years old, and my uncle was a timber faller,
Okay.
and a couple of my other uncles were timber fallers back in the day. And I started out by packing his jacks and his big tree jacks to cut over the big old growth timber and lug his big chainsaws around and just help him through the summertime. And I just absolutely loved it. I mean, anybody that's ever been around it would know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
and just, it just rubbed on me, and I just grew from it. And I just used that later in life to kind of jumpstart, I got a job working for a guy bucking, some old growth timber, and he got me more hands-on experience, with the saw in my hand type thing, and just kind of took off after college. And that's all I really ever did.
Yeah. So when you got into that, now remind me, did you start your own timber company too at one point? Like you were,
Yeah, at one point in time, I did some stuff on my own, some small Jippo stuff, I did got into some real estate development stuff and whatnot. And then, of course, Black Friday, the stock market crash and all that good stuff. And it turned a lot of people upside down, so I just I thank God I was diversified enough to, you know, shut the doors on a few things and fire sell some stuff, pay some debt down, and get my feet back underneath me. There's a lot of people that lost everything they had,
yeah,
and back then, and having a small young family, my kids were little, and that's when I was sitting in my chair, I'm going, what's my next step? And that's when I came up with the idea, hey, what are you good at? And I'm going, well, I'm good at hunting. I love hunting, so why not try to incorporate that? And at that point in time, the internet was really just starting to crank off good. And so I talked to a guy, he helped me develop a simple web page and with some photos. And like I said, a box of business cards and brochures, and I was off and running, and I was the only guide. I was the one doing all the hunts myself personally.
yeah. And
I mean,
then, so when you got into, what was that transition like? Because you go from logging and land development, real estate stuff, excuse me, and then now you're doing what you love. Because I imagine the whole time you were logging, you were hunting,
oh
right?
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. My dad told me when I was a kid, he goes, if you don't like getting out of bed and looking forward to go doing your job every day, you need to find that job that makes you that happy.
yeah,
Because if you get up thinking, oh my God, I got to go deal with my coworker tomorrow, I'm not looking forward to that, you need to find something else to do, find something that makes you happy, and so that's what I did is when I said, I'm going to go hunting. I want to do some hunting. I think there's a future in this. And I started this business in, wow, what was it, oh 02? It was late of '02 is when we started putting it in motion, and it really started to lift off. I mean, it just didn't gradually take off. I mean, this thing went like a rocket. And when Obama came into the presidency, it kind of leveled out a couple of years, but it was still on an upward movement. And anytime we have a conservative type president, this thing, it's like this. I
yeah,
mean, they just don't have enough help, qualified help to help you. I mean, and let's face it, qualified help, it's any job, everybody's looking for more qualified help.
yeah,
And, but we just won't hire anybody, or let anybody be a part of our team. It's like a marriage, it's kind of like you got to have trust, and respect for each other and that type of thing, because there's a lot of people want to go hunting, but in today's society, hunting is getting expensive. I mean, let's face it, fuel down here where I'm at is 4.40 a gallon right now.
yeah, man, you ain't lying about that.
When I started this business, fuel was $1.06 a gallon.
I can't even imagine.
And
I
tires,
mean,
and tires, and a set of tires, you can buy a set of tires for your pickup for $400, $450,
yeah. As opposed to 2 grand now.
2,500, 2,400.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane what they're going for now. It's absolutely. I mean, and we can point fingers at the economy and conservative republic. I mean, that our leadership in this country is failing us. Period. At the end, it doesn't matter what label. In my opinion, they rock like on both sides of the coin. You're failing us. If you're not for this country and for the people of this country, then it's time to go.
In my opinion, it's the internet. Let's take the hunting trip for example. If I take you and you go out and we shoot a big buck together, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, okay, that picture, after you send it in the slow snail mail to Field and Stream, and then with a story, you might see that story a year to a year and a half, 2 years later, down the road, okay, of a great story. A great picture. Maybe a year and a half to 2 years down the road, which with social media and stuff, it's like instant. It's right now. So same thing with all this troublesome BS that we see on TV. the internet has us informed instantly.
Yeah.
There is no lag, there is no delay. So I mean, just think about all the stuff that's been going on 30, 40 years ago that we just didn't hear about for 2 or 3 years down the road because it finally leaked out. I mean,
And it
it's
does make
definitely,
you question everything, John.
I know,
Everything.
I know. I don't, I don't get dialed up on the politics
Yeah.
and feed into the media, the news aspect of it. I mean, I would rather turn on a TV show and watch a movie or something with my wife before bed than I would sit there and lay there and watch Fox News thinking about what's happening clear across the world, before I go to sleep that night. And it, it's just crazy. I mean, I just truly believe we've lost our moral compass.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, let's face it. When I was a kid, my dad wore out probably 8 or 10 leather belts on my ass,
Yeah.
but it made me into the person I am nowadays. I'm not a bad person, it just made me into who I am. And, that's like, it's funny. 1981, that's just when I think this really went to hell in a handbasket for the United States. And you want to know why?
What's that?
I was going from the fifth to the sixth grade. And every time we were in school, you'd always poke your head around the corner and you'd take a look behind the teacher's desk to see how big of a paddle they had. That's when those things left, was when I went in the sixth grade. No more paddles.
Yeah. You know what they say, at least in the Marine Corps, pain retains. That was the motto. I don't know if that's even still a thing, but it was back when I was in. So
Well, in the fifth grade in Miss Wilson's class, this is hilarious. I mean, not to get off track or anything, but Miss Wilson was an elderly lady at the end of her retirement. I think our class was maybe one of her last classes that she taught. She lived up here just at the top of the hill from me. There was another girl by the name of Chris Phillips, and they might as well met in the hall at 8:30 to get that ass whipping out before because guaranteed it was happening every single day before 8:35. And those two just butted heads every single day. And that's always still the laughing stock of our 40th class reunion or 35th class reunion was about Chris Phillips in the fifth grade getting her ass beat every day. But um, I don't know. It's crazy. But kids nowadays, I just don't think they have the true respect for their elders, um, that type of thing. I mean, you just don't see it nowadays, and it's almost sickening. And
yeah,
I mean, when I was in the first grade, I remember, we always started off by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, in school. I really think we need to. I mean, in my opinion, we need to bring all that back.
I I do too. Pride of country is everything. You,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you got to have pride in what you have. You have to be proud of where we are, what we have,
What we
where we come,
represent. Yeah, yeah,
where we come from, what
yeah,
it cost.
yeah.
None of that is lost on me. But that's what's cool about like being able to do the show. To be honest with you, John, is this is like I kind of was telling you offline. Like this is my way to give back. This is my way to try to encourage people through. I don't care if it's 30 people or 10,000 people or a million people that listen to this. If I could get to one person and encourage them to go after the next level in life or go after more or to turn the throttle up, that's what this is about to me. And that's a win at the end of the day. If I could impact one life to say, no more mediocre bullshit, no more running with your foot halfway on the gas pedal, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's time to step this up. And that's where, like I said, where we get this opportunity to talk about things that can really help people. Truthfully, it can. And guys like you with your story and your background, man, like timber falling, logging, that is cutthroat work. And I'm sorry, we're going to spend some time on the hunting thing because that's what you do now and what you've been doing. But uh, I just want people to understand that like where you come from is, when we say the barbarian thing, right? Like that's an unruly pursuit. That's its own niche work. It's hard work every day. You're dirty. You're climbing around. You're bruised. You get cuts, blood, tear. Like there's all the emotions that come with something like that. And you were still be able to take that and parlay that into doing more, right? Like, yes, you made good money. Yes, you had fun. You enjoyed going to work, but there was still that idea somewhere in your head, obviously, right? Because you took it from being a faller to playing with real estate and property, land development, stuff like that, to, okay, well, now I'm going to try to figure out how to make money hunting and doing what I really love the whole time. So, my point is, in all those different steps, you never lost your candor. You always, you didn't settle. That's what I'm getting at here. You always found a way to go, okay, well, this was cool, but now this. And I'm a younger guy, but like that's what I did to get to where I'm at in my career is I was very aggressive. I chased cranes all over the country to run as many in any kind of industry that a crane works in as I could until I got to a point where I could do it with my eyes closed. And then I moved into this, so I tower crane, so that I could be home more, right? That way I could be around my kids as I started having kids. And now I'm at a point where like I want to help mentor other people get more out of life and whatever that looks like and build my own thing, right? And
Mhm.
so I really want to dive into what that mindset was like for you going from, okay, I'm just cutting my teeth doing timber falling and just knuckle dragging work, let's just call it what it is, to owner mentality, and give us some wisdom on that because there's a lot of people that listen to this that know they want more, you know?
Well, for me, I don't know. It just seemed to have happened. I mean, as I worked, starting timber falling, working with Daryl Fisher, great guy. I mean, his kids are the born and raised kids. I
Yeah.
mean, great group of guys. Matter of fact, they're doing some TV stuff nowadays and whatnot, doing a good job with that. But their dad, Daryl, he's the man.
Yeah.
Just an absolute stud timber faller, great guy, just great person. And he taught me the ropes and taught me a lot. And I just learned real quick that we are the cheapest loggers and timber fallers around the country right here where I live. So I just kind of saw the writing on the wall that I was just basically tired of living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And my dad gave me some more words of advice. He says, "Hey, if you're one to my dad, because my dad was always an entrepreneur doing his own thing, whatnot." And he just said, and it made sense to me. He goes, if you're not willing to walk out on that limb and it starts drooping, you got to go out there a little farther to find out where that breaking point is. He goes, that limb might break out from underneath you, but you just catch on to the next one or two down below you and you just crawl back up. Well, you just know how far it is. You got to be able to walk out there before you see that breaking point, and so those words kind of set in with me, and it said you got to be willing to take a chance, and if you're not willing to take a chance to better yourself, I just don't feel that you're going to get where you need to be or you want to be. And I've found ways to, it wasn't easy at first when I started my guiding business, to transitioning from the logging to whatnot. I worked for Tony Moline. I mean, have you ever heard of Abe and Son Calls?
I
Um,
haven't.
okay, they're an elk call manufacturing company. Abe, his real name's Ralph Moline, but everybody calls him Abe. His nickname, because I mean, if he walked into a Abe Lincoln contest, you better just take him the trophy because it's over. I mean, twin, but great guy. Still alive to this day. Still making a few calls. I worked for Tony for all those years. I cut trees. Him and I were great friends. So as a subcontractor, I was able to call Tony in the springtime, January, February, March, and go help him part time when I first started out my guide business, cutting trees on the side, taking my hunters in the fall, and then it would just, roll over into the next year and we do the same thing. Until it got to a point where finally I just pulled the plug on the cutting aspect of it. My wife now, Jody Lynn, I mean, love her to death. She's a registered nurse. She works over here at Coquille Valley Hospital and as a nurse care manager now. And she just told me, she says, I don't want you cutting trees no more. That's just too dangerous of a job. It's hard on your body. Just chase what you do, So she gave me the encouragement to just kind of shut the doors down on the timber falling aspect of it, even though I still love doing it, cut a tree here, there for a neighbor, whatever. Um, but yeah, you got to really be willing to want to take that chance to get out there. There's programs out there where you can go to your bank with a written plan, or you know, oh, there's all kinds of things out there where you can get yourself a small business loan, especially being a veteran or whatever. There's programs out there to where you can help you get a jump start if you got a good idea to do something and you can show it to be profitable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing is you just got to be willing to take that chance.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. It's funny that you say that, right? Because it's almost like we're risk advert anymore. But how this country was started and how we became a superpower was by playing into risk. Like we bet all of our hedges on taking the risky road and the aggressive thing. I mean, we had a bunch of teenagers overthrow the England's government essentially to create us, right? Like a bunch of punk kids, young guys, and now it's like you need a safe space. It's so wild, but that it plays into what we were talking about earlier about problems in the world, right? That in our country, especially, is we don't take any risk, and that's why I love that you just said that because think about all the risk you had. You went from a guaranteed paycheck to I have to build this and make it work to okay, well, I figured out that I could take a little bit of risk, but still keep myself in a spot where I'm working on the fall or in the spring, like you were just saying, and keeping some income coming that I know I can do this work to having a push from your support system, from your spouse, which is awesome. Like right on Jody for encouraging you to go full time on that and chase your dream. That's a whole different conversation. But to like having to really just dial in and say, okay, I know what I'm doing and even if I don't, I'm going to figure it out as I go and build the airplane, right? And now you said this is 2002. I mean, now here we are 22 years later, and you have one of the largest guide and outfitter companies in the state, if not the largest, correct?
I don't know anybody more that has more guides than that, that I'm aware of, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, I know of a few outfits that might have maybe 10, 12, 15 guys that help them, maybe. I'm
yeah,
just guessing.
yeah. No, that's incredible. So, I mean, we covered your background a little bit, but let's get into what it's like being a business owner and starting a guide business. I mean, our audience is more diversified. They're blue collar hands, they're construction workers, they're endurance athletes, they're different people like that as well. But I think there's a lot of value in this in how you can go to work for yourself, right? And what that looks like because it's definitely probably not as glamorous as people might think, right? It's got to be moments where at first it was probably terrifying. I mean,
Well, you know, when I hear somebody say that they work 40 hours a week,
yeah,
I just I kind of look at them a little sideways and I'm going, okay, I've got that pissed out by about 11 a.m. on Wednesday. So what do you do with the rest of your week? I mean, I'm not lying. I mean, you can ask my wife. It drives her nuts. I'll be at dinner tonight at 7 o'clock, say down at our little pub down here, and the phone might ring, and it could be a potential new client. I'll take the call. I'll jump up, walk outside, take the call. I won't stop. And I get up thinking about work. I get up between 3:30 and 4:30 every morning,
yeah,
and I go to bed around 9:30 every night. And I'm up thinking about work and I'm going to bed thinking about work, what I'm doing the next day or what I've got to do this week, things going on. And that's 7 days a week.
yeah,
I mean, if you don't want that type of responsibility, and you're not willing to put 110% effort into a situation like that, working that many hours a week, um, being your own boss is not the thing for you. But you got to look at the rewards though. Like you're like, oh, I'm going to take 2 weeks off and I'm going antelope hunting in Nevada, here this fall. Hey, I'm the boss. I can take that. I don't got to ask anybody to take those days off. I'll just schedule that off and make sure everything's covered. Being your own boss has its definite rewards. I mean, you find yourself putting everything that you make back into your business to make it better and bigger and grow. Yeah, if I took you outside right now, we're building a brand new like 30 by 72 shop, and to put all the freaking wall tents and coolers and enclosed trailers and stuff like that, and whatnot. So we got more storage, and that's really why we're building it. Um, but I just never dreamed I'd get to where I'm at today. And I brought my son in, to help me, and he brought
Yeah.
some younger guys in with him, and my right hand guy, Zach Hancock. Zach's been helping me now for, I want to say, like 18 years, 19 years. He took like 2 or 3 years off there. He was a captain of um, a crabbing boat, and that just didn't quite work out the way I expected. So he came back, and I encouraged him to go do it. When he came to me, I'm like, "Hey, yeah, hey man, I support you. Go do it." And he came back 2 or 3 years. And he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "Is my spot still there?" I said, "Always,
Yeah.
always, forever." And
That's
yeah, so he's back with us. I got out of those, say 50 people that work for us. I've got like 6 of them, 5, 6 of them that work from basically about the July 15th to the end of the year every day.
yeah.
You know, Everybody else on that list has a real day job, whether they're a plumber, an electrician, guys scattered all over the country. I just feel very blessed, that they're willing to give me maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks of their, personal time, vacay time to, take guide a hunter, for us and whatnot. Um, but yeah, guiding is not a get rich deal by any means, but it's about what you love and what you love to get back to do. Matter of fact, I'm working on a project right now, putting in some new guzzlers, some water troughs and spring boxes over in the Hells Canyon National Recreation Area. I'm kind of taking the lead on that right now with the support of the Oregon Wild Sheep Foundation chapter, and they're getting the funding to buy the material. One of the guys has got the Forest Service to give us the helicopter to help fly all of our material into our designated locations that we're going to identify and that type of thing. So yeah, we're looking forward to doing that this spring. And that's all volunteer work.
Yeah.
That's not getting paid. That's me spending my hard-earned money for everybody else out there in the general public to be able to benefit from not only just the people but the wildlife, cows, whatever, to have a drink of water, because they had that bad fire over there in Hell's Canyon. It's been about 3 years ago now. So we're going to go back over there and work a bunch of that stuff over so people will be able to benefit from it. So
Yeah, but there's got to be something about being able to serve. That's on a whole nother thing too, right? Like, for me, there's no greater, call it love. Like, you want to go biblical on it too. I mean, it's all about service. It's not what can I do for me, what
yeah.
can I do for you? What can I do
Well,
for others?
see, and that's the part of this business that most of the guys that work for us, they don't see. I mean, if you saw the end of my table here, you'd be like, "Holy smokes!" I got files laying everywhere. Organizing things, putting schedules together. Um, I don't do a lot of the guiding anymore. I mean, I go on a few of the trips, specific trips, but I'm more of the scheduler,
Yeah.
the facilitator, to run around doing the loose errands, picking people up in the airport, dropping them off, going to the taxidermy shop. I mean, running stuff to the coal box. I mean, there's just lots of little loose stuff to do, and it just takes time, you know.
Yeah.
But like you said, giving back to the wildlife and giving back to the recreational hunter. When I first started my guiding business, people were a little reluctant, and they were like, it was like I was hated,
Yeah.
when it come to hunting season. Everybody's friends for 50 weeks out of the year, but there's that 2 weeks where everybody hates each other's guts because it's elk season. And, after I kind of got them educated that, like, hey, I go down here to the Rotary, I spend money at the auction, buying items to support these kids in the community and stuff like that. I'm buying raffle tickets from these kids, helping them support their 4-H projects, stuff like that. Um, Matter of fact, the other day, I live right across the street from the girls' fast pitch softball team. My buddy Doug Liggins is over there. He's working on this place, doing the new dugouts and stuff like that. And I go over there and I'm looking around and see what he's doing. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm totally rebuilding this, and it's all on, donations." So I'm like, "Hold on, I'll be right back." I walk back over here to the house. I grab my checkbook, walk over there to the dump truck with an ink pen. I open up my checkbook and I just write him a check. I won't go about how much I paid him, but I gave him some money. And, so they put a big banner out there with our business logo on there and whatnot for our community, just stuff like that. Sure, we got a tax deduction out of it, but just being able to help to put back into the community, and people after about 10, 15 years started to see that, and I mean, I would explain to them at our little pub. We got one little pub downtown where everybody likes to eat dinner, have a beer, whatever. And I just explained to him, I say, I understand that, Jonathan, that this is your recreational. Okay. You do this for recreation. You need to understand this is how I pay my bills.
Yeah.
And this is how I pay for my truck. This is my job.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it totally different. I mean, I take it as serious because it's my job and you do it for recreation. And finally, everybody's kind of came to terms with that I'm just blessed to have the opportunity to scout a lot more than they do, because if they're working their 40, 50 hours a week and then we get to go look on the weekends, I'm looking all week and during the weekend, so I get to keep track of everything. And that's why it gives me the upper hand to, be a little more successful, especially if there's a big bull to be had, usually we're right there in the mix. Hey, we've been, we've had them shot out from underneath us before, or not had the opportunity to get them because of another successful hunter. There's some luck that has to play into that too. I don't care how much scouting you do or how good you say you are, there's still some luck involved. I mean, especially as an outfitter, we can't control the weather, and two, we cannot control animal habits.
Yeah.
But usually everything else, just some hard work and dedication, you'll do just great.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute, because I want to give our audience some value here, and you're the one to do it with 20 years guiding and building a business. What's something that people could do better at as far as, uh, let's go with the servant's heart thing, right? Because I feel like, honestly, John, that's something that's missing today is a servant's heart. That attitude is, it's what can I take from people now versus what can I give? And honestly, that breaks my heart personally, because like for me, I would probably be the worst wealthy person in the world. Be, honestly, I would, because I like nothing brings me more joy than giving. Like nothing gives me more joy than being able to help someone or do something for somebody cool, and not so I can get a thank you. Like I just like doing shit for people, and that's missing. So what do you? How do you think that parlays into a successful being a successful business owner as well, right? Because you've had to have learned something in there that you've, like you said, it's not a get rich thing for you. That doesn't mean that you can't make money. That doesn't mean you don't know how to profit or benefit and take care of yourself. But at the root of it, that means that's not what it's about for you, and that you understand that. But I'm sure there was one point in time where you were chasing, like, how big can I make this? How much money can we make? What's something you would say to somebody in any business, right? That so that they don't get lost in a number.
You know, I've gone from making millions of dollars a year to, let's say, making 500,000 to a million a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, our habits, when you get to making that much money, especially if you come from not a lot and then
Yeah.
obviously got money, I explain to my kids, I go, your spending habits will change. You may not realize it, but your taste for things are going to get, um, like, instead of me having a sirloin steak, I'm going to have filet mignon tonight,
Yes.
and your patterns will change maybe without you even realizing what you're doing, or instead of you wearing just going down and getting your wife just getting just to say a handbag, the next thing you know, she's buying the Gucci or whatever, high end
Yeah.
dollar, $700 freaking purse, right? I mean, I don't know. Each is their own, you know. I think if a person is young enough and you can stay focused, number one thing, whatever you do, make sure you start like some type of a retirement program for yourself when you start your own business, especially at a young age. Start putting away money early so when you look down the road being a self-employed person, you have some type of security and retirement down the road in 30 years. Um, a lot of kids don't do that today, for sure. You know, you know, I don't, I don't know. Um, I
What about
know
on the
that
servant
the
side
Black
of
Friday
things?
thing, when the stock market crashed and stuff like that, and it made me re backpedal, and get my foundation back underneath me. It made me a way better business person, and not to be so making decisions on just quick. It would make me think about it a little bit more. I'm like going, okay, what happens if I go that goes this way, or what happens if it goes that way? You look at everything with a broader perspective, and it's made me make a lot better business decisions. As far as being able to save money, have capital. Just because you have money doesn't mean you need to go spend it.
Yeah,
You know,
no, that's true.
um, you know, my dad told me three things that a person needs to be successful in business. Okay, one, you need a good attorney. Two, you need a good certified public accountant, and three, you need a good manager.
Yeah,
If you got those three things, you can be successful in business. And your manager has got to be somebody that you truly trust.
yeah.
I mean, if
And,
you got those three things, you can get pretty much any business off the ground.
so what
You know,
about getting started though, right? So getting started, a lot of the time people just don't got capital or whatnot. So let me um let me just use like a more relatable reference, right? And you work with guys like this for certain clients and stuff. Our the co-owner of the show, Tyler, for example. So if I was starting a media company, I know I already have my camera and I've already invested the time in my skill set to be able to get to a certain point where that my work is attractable. But now I want to take that and make it something, right? But I don't have the assets available to me to I don't have the assets available to me to like quit everything and work for people for $600 a day rate on a film project. Like that would I would end up divorced and alone. I mean I would, right? Like it would, and there's just so many gaps in that. But so I'm just trying to give you something that you work with. You see these kids a lot, I'm sure, in passing because of just guiding hunts and different things. But uh, so I get this. I know how to get it. I get a couple clients. Say I meet somebody like you, right? How do I go about getting to a point where I can establish myself to be one, that guy that you recommend to your friends, right? But also that can now say go from a camera to three cameras, right? And I'm taking small bites at this, but right, but like scaling yourself up is what I'm getting at here.
you know, it just depends on whatever it is you're trying to get into. I mean, if you're trying to use the media aspect of it, I just know some of that stuff's crazy expensive, and the day rates cost a lot, to have camera guys on scene. And then once you got just because you got the video captured, you still got to have somebody to edit it. And then that's a whole nother horse of another color. Is having that special skill set to be able to edit that stuff up and get it to a TV production. And I think Tyler does a great job with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I know he's just trying to really get cranked off with that right now, and I've passed his name and number around quite a bit. I think with that title, let's just use Tyler for an example.
yeah, sure.
Um, it's just a matter of word of mouth, getting some stuff out there, and then people will start, giving you that word of mouth. Word of mouth just travels so fast. I mean, you can have the best looking website, you can have the best, two paragraphs explaining who you are, what you do, and you just won't get that look. You know, word of mouth, I think, is the best thing. And a lot of that to really explode, I think, is more so on timing, right place, right time.
Yeah,
And then somebody dropping your name, and then you could just be off and running. Next thing you know, you're running a TV show for somebody like maybe like Tom Miranda, ESPN Outdoors, or you know, um, just finding that little glitch, that special that somebody needs and not
yeah,
everybody has, is where the key's at. Um, when I first started my outfitting business,
Yeah.
And when you Googled it, or I mean, you looked on the internet, there was like maybe three guys doing it. Now you look at it, there's a whole bunch. I see guys coming on, I won't mention any names, but they're charging for a deer hunt what I charged 22 years ago. you know
Yeah.
and it's not that I wouldn't want to help them or sit down with them, buy them dinner or something, and just tell them, say, hey man, you got to get your prices up. Don't be that guy cutting everybody's throat. you know I know what the expenses cost to do this. If you want to do a good job and be able to do it right and to be able to lease some property, you know I know what it takes. You need to get your prices a little more in line with everybody else around you. They'll pay it. That's what it's going to cost you. You'll find out. Now if you're living in mom's basement, and you don't got no bills, sure, maybe that works for you. But if you want to get, um
An office or a company rig.
yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
you want to be able to provide for yourself or your young family, these are the numbers you need to be at. you know and um let's face it, I mean, as far as blacktail guides out there in the world, there might be 40 of them now. you know I mean, so it's competitive. The nice thing is we hunt in one of the two best counties, two of the three best counties in the world for the best genetics of deer. It's not just an average buck, and we more so just draw to the more professional hunters trying to collect the North American 29. It's not like I'm gonna get a blacktail hunter from Eugene, Oregon, or say Portland, Oregon, and wants to go deer hunting with me. Don't get me wrong, I've taken a few guys like that, um, but it's not the average guy for certain.
Yeah. No,
And I've I've helped a few guys, especially kids. I take a lot of kids hunting, and just get these kids outdoors and give back. I'll give you an example. One of my wife's coworkers, her daughter, first year applying last year, I did her applications for. Lo and behold, she drew the hardest antelope tag. It takes over 20 years to draw usually. She dropped it on a random tag. I take this 12-year-old girl over there. I mean, sure, it cost me, I spent probably $1,500 out of my own pocket, taking this kid over there hunting, to be there for her and show her around. And she shoots a great antelope. They have a great time. And now she's like, can we go get a buck? So we end up getting her a buck tag, and later on that year, in December, and December, when was that? Yeah, it was December. She had a special youth tag, and she shot her super nice buck with us. I think it was just after Donnie, and then she after we were packing the buck house, she goes, "Can we go get an elk next?" And I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll see what we can do, and but just getting those kids outdoors at a young age, and whatnot, is I just love that.
yeah. No, I
But
bet. When you were building that out, though, you left room for that on the table. I mean, that's you were talking about earlier, the perks of being the boss, right? And like
yeah,
owning your own thing. Like you get to do that stuff where you get it's almost like living in memory lane, like reminiscing on old times, like seeing that fire in somebody else like pick up something that you've dedicated your life to. It that in itself has got to be rewarding, right?
I'm always constantly working on wildlife issues, helping my biologist, for example, I'm scheduling a couple aerial surveys where we'll go in, for example, maybe with a helicopter, and we will write down every head count. We'll count every ram, every ewe, and every lamb, and we'll document the date, the drainage that it's in, and we will relay all that information with our local Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife biologists of that particular area, because they may not, one, have the funding, or two, have the time to get those necessary surveys done. So if we can help themselves, maybe it helps issue another tag, or maybe it helps their model to where another tag is issued to where it could help somebody like yourself if they wanted to go bighorn sheep hunting. there's another tag available. Like these water projects. I know they were in bad shape the last time we were in there. Um, but I want to, and we've been talking about this for a couple of years, and that's why I've pretty much grabbed the bull by the horns and said, "All right, we're getting this done. I want that helicopter ready to go on the 18th, 19th of June, so we can fly this stuff in." I'm just working on some. I don't know if you can see my phone's been blowing up with some GPS coordinates, on some projects that we're identifying that we got to relay to the Forest Service to get their thumbs up, and then we'll have the helicopter fly in there and drop that stuff off, and then it's just a matter of getting a small crew together to go in there with a few hand tools and install these things. So yeah,
That's cool.
a lot of
See,
work.
me,
I mean, it's a lot of there's a lot of unpaid time.
yeah, but you, at the end of the day, you have something that you can hang your hat on, something you built, and something you could pass on, and it's you took it from thought to paper to reality, man, and that's what it's about. That is the American dream, like being able to dream something up and accomplish it, right? Like
Yeah.
not getting caught in all the everybody tells you what you can't do anymore. This is something that I absolutely despise in the workplace and the just even in how we mentor kids, right? And we talk like you're a baseball getting ready to start coaching baseball on top of all the other crazy shit that you got going on. You decide I'm going to start trying to coach to help too in that way. But all we ever hear about is what we can't. You can't do this. You're not capable of this, not this, not. And you know how everybody always says, well, what if it doesn't work, John? How many times did you hear that? What if that doesn't work, right?
Well, then
But
you don't deal. Well, one
but what if it does?
one thing I will say is I mean, the school of hard knocks, man. I mean, you do something, you find out that didn't work. Hopefully you don't do that again, because it didn't work the first time. So what would make you think it's going to work the second time? So learning to build from those situations, like, well, that wasn't a good idea. That was a waste of money. Maybe I should listen to my old man and done what he said. So that's why I try and instill in my son, or my kids, hey, I really wish you guys would think twice about that, because I've been there, done that. I'm not just saying this to hear myself make noise. I'm trying to relay that information to you, that I'm going to save you a lot of heartache, time, and money.
Yeah,
And having somebody to be able to mentor you, in something that you're looking at, if they're willing to share that type of information with you, is invaluable. I mean, you can't. I mean, I've had several guys call me, wanting to start a guide business, like, hey man, what do I got to do? And I said, well, you got to go get yourself your insurance, and you got to get your marine, you got to get your guide license, and then you got to get yourself a website, and stuff like that. And I go, it's not easy by any means. Everybody thinks they're going to make a quick living at this right away doing it. They're in for a rude awakening,
yeah,
because the amount of hours, my accountant, Dan Soliday out there in Pennsylvania, he's like, you don't even make minimum wage. And this was like 10 years ago. And I'm like going, I know, but I go, it's what I love doing. And he just kind of shakes his head, and that was that. But that was before my business really started to blow up, and more guys. And, it used to be me, two, three guys, four guys, at the most, that would guide, and that was it. And I've just learned to reel in, and not take an abundance of people. I don't need to be taking 20, 2,500 a week, to make a living. I don't want them to feel like they're say the sheep running through the trough for the hoof treatment. You know what I mean? Or running into DMV to pull the ticket, to wait 2 hours to get your driver's license renewed. I don't want them to feel like that.
yeah.
So,
So let's talk
but
about that because so you built this into where One, you know your value. That's one thing you talked about earlier, is knowing like pricing and things like that. You got to believe that you're worth what you ask. Otherwise, other people aren't going to see you like that. I mean, that's just, sorry if people don't like hearing that. It's the truth. You got to see yourself for what you're really worth, and you got to value your time. Otherwise, you're just asking for people to take advantage of you, and you're selling yourself short of any potential. But you've had high value, like high value, high, what do you call that, famous clients. Very, very like high priority, like it's impressive, man. Donald Trump Jr., for example, and his son multiple times come out and hunt world class blacktail with you and your organization. I mean,
It's funny how that all transpired. Alan Bolin, he, a friend of
yeah.
mine there in Utah, he's friends with Don, and he got me tied in with Don, and we did that first TV show for the white-tailed deer there, the Colombian white-tailed deer with Don, and he came out, and we had a great time. I actually introduced Don Jr. to a guy by the name of Alex Scarlatos. I don't know if that name rings a bell to you, but he was the kid that was running against Peter DeFazio for Congress from
Okay.
Roseburg. He was Alex was the kid that took the gun away from the guy on the train in Paris.
Okay.
Remember the movie that was a 15, 17, 19 to Paris? Everybody, it was a Clint Eastwood movie. But Alec is a good friend. I mean, great guy. So I got Don here. He was hunting, and I got him and Don together at a private dinner. And you'd be amazed with Don walking around in the public eye, with his hat on, maybe some sunglasses on. No, only two people recognized him while he was here in Roseburg, Oregon.
Yeah.
And I figured it would end up being more than that. But it doesn't matter. But taking somebody like that, we do not talk politics with him.
Yeah.
It's more about our kids, hunting, fishing, shooting, that type of thing. Because with all this craziness that we're dealing with in the world right now, like his dad on freaking TV, and him there in the background waiting for this verdict on this trial. I'm like, I just texted him yesterday or day before. I'm like, hey man, just thinking about you guys. I mean, this is bullshit, and it just it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
not. I mean, I don't know. I I really don't know. I'm lost. I'm speechless. And usually I'm not. I mean, this world's just gone. It's who knows which direction this thing's heading in right now. I mean, I'm just my head spinning.
Yeah, but when they get to come to you and spend time with you on the mountain, none of that matters.
No,
It's like a break.
hey,
You get a,
hey, and let me tell you something about Don and his boy and stuff there. They are no different than you and I. I mean,
yeah,
they're just dudes, you know, um, just good guys. They're a lot of fun to be around, and they're funny. Don Jr. You can just tell that he's super smart, quick witted, um, but very level headed, you know, and I can't wait. I'm hoping someday we'll see him as the president.
yeah,
That's my
that,
thought. I think
yeah,
we'll see him as a president someday. Junior.
yeah, that would be cool. He is pretty sharp witted.
Yeah.
Um, so listen, man, one thing we like to do on the show is I like to ask our guests some questions, just things that people could chew on, because I think it's important to impart wisdom. I know I've asked you a few, but I just want to ask you some things, as we get ready, get a little bit closer to wrapping this thing up, that I think could help people. One, I want to start by asking you, what is a barbarian to you? And when I ask you this, okay, I understand that the barbarian in the Mongolian terms of like they go and they pillage and blah blah blah. I get that, but what I mean is this is an unruly approach. So when you think about your journey to building a business, or the other guys out there that you see building businesses, what would constitute a barbarian to you?
Um, I would say somebody that is um, aggressive and definitely not passive. You
Yeah.
cannot have that instinct in your thought process, in my opinion, to be a barbarian. You just need to be, I mean, aggressive, but not overly aggressive, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, just stay positive. I mean, I'm a firm believer. You stay positive, be aggressive. Things will come your way. Um, yeah, I mean, really, that's about it. Be willing to step out there on that limb. Be aggressive, stepping farther on that limb until you find that breaking point.
Yeah.
To get you where you want to be. Have a good plan. You know, um, I mean, you got to have a good plan. If you don't have a plan or a vision, I think that may be a lot of it for people is having that vision. What's this going to be like 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road? I mean, that type of thing. Because everybody has great ideas, but just visioning what that idea is going to be like in 2 to 3, 4 years down the road, a lot of people can't see that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate hearing that. So say somebody listening to this has decided they want to be a guide or they'd like to get into guiding, right? I'm not saying they want to go and start their own guide service necessarily, but they would like to get into guiding. What are you looking for in a guy? If I was to hit you up, John, and say, hey, I got some extra time this fall. This is something I want to pursue. I'm an elk guy personally, like elk is my drug. But um,
Right.
what can I do to get started? What can I do to be somebody that you would consider to work for?
First things first, we like to see what kind of success you've had for yourself,
Sure.
and maybe your family, that type of thing. Um, just being a good person, because we will only hire people with local knowledge, from the area and knowing the animals from their local area. I don't want to try to hire somebody from Utah that's never been in Oregon to guide you on an elk hunt on some place or an animal he's never hunted or a place he's never been, because it just makes you all look like he's looking at his GPS all the time, with Onyx or whatever, which, I mean, there's a lot of great new tools out there and technology to help him learn things quick, but there's nothing that beats local knowledge of, your local area, knowing the people, knowing the farmers, knowing the land, where the property lines are, that type of thing. I mean, just that experience. So if you called me up and said, hey, I want to do some elk, I know some areas up here where there's some big bulls, and I think I could be an asset to your team. So I basically get into you first, what kind of person you are and what kind of references you may have, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Cool.
local knowledge is really key, you know,
Yeah.
key.
So start killing animals and and be a good human, and then become a multi tool. Is what you're saying. You got to be resourceful.
Yep. Yeah. Just and having a good, you can't be, what's the word I'm looking for here? You can't be mean. You know what I mean? You got to be able to converse with the person that you've never met before. And you're taking them around, holding their hand, showing them your country, where you live, what you're about, and teaching them who you are and what you're about and what you're doing there. And then basically the harvesting of the animal is really the icing of the cake. That's the way I explain it. We got all the ingredients to bake the cake,
Yeah.
but when you're taking the pictures at the end of the holding your trophy, that's just the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have all the ingredients, but
Yeah.
that icing, we got to work for that icing.
Yeah. And what would you say to those young guys out there that do got a vision, that do got a dream, that are maybe dragging their feet on getting started? What would you say to somebody that whether it's guiding or hunting or any kind of business really? What would you say to that young entrepreneur?
I mean, it doesn't matter what business you're in. You
Yeah.
just you can't have you can't be scared to take a chance. You can't have any resentment. if you want to learn, I mean, let's face it, YouTube, you can go on YouTube and learn a lot. There's a lot of like people that talk that help you build businesses, write a business plan, that type of thing. You can learn that stuff on the internet. Um, or just pick up the phone and call somebody,
Yeah.
um, and say, hey, man, I want to think about starting this type of business. Is there any words of advice you could give me? And I've given that to several young guides that have tried this. They've made a run at it, but then they're gone. I've seen so many people try to break into this business and they realize how hard it is. And it's not really a huge profit margins, so they find like, oh, that's not for me. I don't want to do that. I want to go do something else and make more money, or try to make more money, and why not? But yeah, just not having, just being willing to get off the couch, be willing to work hard, and take a chance.
Yeah.
Find somebody that's willing to take a chance on you. And having the biggest key to being successful is, one, you got to have the financial capital to survive the storm. Because there will be a storm. I don't care what business you're in or what you're doing, you're going to see a storm at some point in time or another. You just got to have enough hope in your shed strong enough to withstand that storm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then be ready to come out the storm with your sword.
That's it. Swinging, man. Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as it passes.
Yeah. You just can't be, I think most people just have what I see is they're not quite sure of themselves and just unsure of themselves and not ready to quite take that chance yet. And I'm seeing it more so with younger guys, younger males, between the ages of about 22 to 27, in that age. But once they have a child or two, a young family, you're seeing that they're starting to settle down, become more mature. And then they'll step up and say, all right, I've got an idea. I want to try this, and then make it a go of it, So no, I encourage it wholeheartedly. Drop the phone here, but it's just got to have, you got to be willing to take that chance.
Yeah, no, I think
life is a bag of chances.
Yeah.
Every day going downtown, am I going to get hit crossing the highway? It's a chance.
Yeah. Walking across the street, walking to the grocery store, walking with your kids.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is a chance. You just don't realize it. And it's all what value you assign to it, to be honest with you, right?
Yeah.
You just overwrite most of it every day. Every time driving to work every day is probably one of the most dangerous things in the world.
Honestly. Yeah. No, that's
So not to factor in all the other stuff, but yeah, you're right. Life is a bag of chances. I really like what you said there. Just as we're getting ready to wrap this up, John, just on time here, be respectful of the time, and I know you're a busy guy. How can someone get a hold of you, or how can someone go hunting with you, or check out what you guys are about? You want to plug your company really quick?
They can just reach out to us. Take a look at our Instagram page at like Eden Ridge Hunts, or our social media stuff, because that's where we're usually the most active, there. Even though I've been lacking a little bit, what I need to do is get Tyler engaged and just have him take over the social media, but you got to have content, right? You got to have a lot of content, always new content. Or they can go to our website, EdenRidgeOutfitters.com. Tyler did a pretty good job there with our webpage, and whatnot. That's turning out good. I mean, we're getting about, I don't know, 2,500 people viewing it a month. I think that's pretty decent. I don't know a lot about that stuff, but Tyler does. So, like I say, we're typically booked a solid year out, if not almost 2 years out in advance. So people that are hunters realize they have the best time frame to go. You need to be looking ahead, planning ahead down the road, and not trying to do something instinct. Just right now. I want to go this year, because most of those spots are booked. I mean, we have a few openings left for things. Always after the draw comes available, but after about the 20th of June, man, it starts to really tighten up. because people are aware of what they've got going on all over. So,
Yeah.
and hey, I'm no different than anybody else. I like to go hunting too. So I got lucky and drew a Nevada antelope tag. So I'll be down in Nevada chasing speed goats there for an extended weekend, So
Yeah, I'm sure you'll make pretty quick work of that, though, won't
yeah,
you?
still got to do the homework. Luckily, one of my guides lives just in the north end of the unit, and he's going to go spend some time out there helping me do some looking for me. And I'll just race down there, and we'll go out and have a good time and go antelope hunting. So
Yeah, that should be cool. I'm excited to hear how that goes for you. So you like people can reach out to you on your Instagram, Eden Ridge Hunt, and or on your website, right?
yep, yep. Eden Ridge
Awesome.
Outfitters. Yep.
Awesome. And then I got to hunt. I got to talk to you about offline. Um, I got a pretty cool tag this year. It's a very cool tag, but I'm not really telling anybody about it. So after we stop recording, I'll fill you in on it. But listen, John, what I want to say for the audience is I want to tell you, why the red button's still flashing here is that I want to tell you thank you. Thank you for taking your time. Like I said, I know you're busy. Thanks for sharing your story and your knowledge. I know there's a million other things that you could say and share, but I think what the big captivating theme of this for me is that you just can't be scared, and you got to just go, and you got to go at all costs, right? Like
Be aggressive.
just one foot in front of the other and believe what you can achieve, right?
That's it. Oh yeah.
You got to just believe that you can achieve. So for our
Don't
audience,
you can't be afraid of failure.
no,
You only learn from that, and it's going to use that for a building block to get you to be a better person, business person, whatever. But learn to build from that. Don't be afraid of failure. Be aggressive, and be willing. Constructive criticism. Always be willing to accept constructive criticism.
yeah, for sure. No, that's really good. So on that, you guys follow John along at Eden Ridge Hunt. They got a lot of cool stuff. They're always posting sheep videos, and they got lots of elk, a giant blacktail, and all sorts of crazy critters. You guys are always chasing, and I enjoy it. I'd love to get down with you and experience bear hunting or something one of these times. Something that's a slower season for you, and just spend some time picking your brain. But
Let's
like I
do it.
said, yeah, like I said, I really appreciate your time. So everybody, please go and check John out and see what his company is all about. And if you take anything from this episode, just take that anything you can dream, you can achieve with hard work and not being afraid. You just got to go get it. And with that, barbarians, we'll see you on the next one.